Are we doing enough to support those that need us most in the Middle East at the moment?
We're doing what we can. We're doing what we can to back Israel's right to defend itself under the Geneva Conventions, but saying this is not a blank cheque. They must do more to meet their duties under international law. And we're doing what we can, and I'd like to see the government doing more to try and extend the small humanitarian pauses, because in the end, that's the best way immediately now to try and get more aid into Gaza, the hostages out, and build the confidence that could see further diplomacy.
How much of a blow was it for your boss yesterday that a third of your MPs voted basically against him and in favour of the SNP? Well,
I understand the backbenchers wanting to reflect the calls from their constituents. For the small number of frontbenchers that resigned, I'm sorry to lose each and every one of them, but each and every one of them grappled with this decision. Each and every one of them wants to see Keir Starmer in Downing Street and will work hard together with everyone else to win that next election.
Not very good at rallying the troops, though, is he? If a third of them decided to vote with the SNP.
Well, we're not a protest party, and we're doing and saying what we would do in government. And when it comes to a parliamentary vote, Keir Starmer's right to be firm. He's right to require from his front bench the collective discipline and responsibility. And he was not going to change his principled position, if you like, just for the sake of internal party management. We've seen that too often with Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives.
Yeah, collective discipline and responsibility. How did that go for him?
Well, it's firm. He's made the arguments.
A third of the party, a third of the MPs voted against him.
So some backbenchers wanted to reflect their constituents. The small number of frontbenchers made their decision to resign. Difficult decision. This is an extremely difficult for everyone. Everybody wants to see an end to the fighting. Everybody wants to see a relief of the humanitarian suffering in Gaza. The question is, what's the best way to do that? And that's why we've been arguing and doing what we can, both in public calls and private diplomacy, to back the work to get small pauses extended to get the aid in and hostages out, and why a call for a ceasefire now is a demand on Israel to give up its right to defend itself against Hamas when they've still got the fighters, the missile systems, the command centres in place to strike again. So that's why we've been, as a Labour Party, doing what we can in opposition to help that cause for breaks in the fighting, and we've been doing that alongside the European Union. We're doing it alongside the US.
Sure.
And reflecting also what the UN's aid chief, Martin Griffiths, is also regards as the most viable, practical way of helping now.
Back to the House of Commons. It was a difficult vote. There'll be other difficult votes, especially if you're in government. He can't have a third of his party not voting with him.
No, and this is an extremely difficult issue for everybody.
There'll be other difficult issues.
But, you know, the deeper unity of the Labour Party was clear last month at the Labour Party conference.
It wasn't there last night.
Totally unified in solidarity with Ukraine.
Wasn't
totally
there last
behind
night?
a plan to help people with the cost of living. Totally determined, after 13 years, to get rid of an infighting, failing Conservative government.
Wasn't there last night?
It was a very difficult issue.
There will be other difficult issues.
We lost a small number of frontbenchers who resigned. I regret that. I know how difficult that decision was for them and everyone. But Keir was right to be firm. We're acting as we would in government, and that's the indication, if you like, that Labour has changed under Keir Starmer. We're not a protest party. We want people to give us the confidence at the next election to be in government, and this is part of the job that we have to do.
OK, I spoke to the new Home Secretary in the last hour, and he basically said, if you don't support, this is basically what he said, if you don't support the Rwanda policy, then that is because you turn your nose up at anything to do with an East African country.
Well, I didn't hear that. That sounds pretty extraordinary to me.
Felt pretty extraordinary at the time.
It suggests to me he's trying to deflect from the fact this was a flagship scheme for Rishi Sunak. It's totally failed. It's cost already over £140 million, and it's had none of the deterrent effect that they planned. We've opposed it because we've said from the start it's unworkable. And now the Supreme Court yesterday has said it's also unlawful.
Basically because Rwanda is not safe. The Home Secretary was going to great lengths to convince me that it is safe. What's Labour's view?
Well, Labour's view is that this is not a workable scheme. The Supreme Court says
Rwanda? Do you feel
it's unlawful.
Country?
We would want, and we've been arguing for the government to stop chasing headlines, adopt the plan that we've set out. So that means stronger powers for our National Crime Agency, a cross-border police
in answer
unit,
to my question,
including
Mr. Healey, please.
Because our argument
is Rwanda a safe country?
Rwanda is not the solution to the...
Is it a safe country?
It's not the solution to an asylum system which the government has lost control. It's not the solution. The better way of doing this is a cross-border police unit, UK officers located in Interpol, a new security agreement that allows us to exchange intelligence about the smuggling gangs in real time. And it's those sort of steps, including getting rid of the backlog, which is built now to 175,000 cases in the system.
Is Rwanda a safe country?
Well, that's not really the question, is it?
This is exactly the question that the judges decided on yesterday.
Well, the judges said it wasn't just European Convention on Human Rights. There was a multiple of international laws.
What they said was Rwanda is not a safe country.
But the real question is, how do we deal with an asylum system...
You're not going to answer the question.
...which the government has lost control above? And 175,000 people in limbo, a small boats problem that didn't exist like this 4 years ago.
It's down a third.
And
the number of people coming across in small boats is down a third year on year.
We didn't have a problem like this 4 years ago. On Sunday alone, 600,
That's because people coming over in trucks before
came across
through the channel and on the ferries.
So the question is not whether Rwanda is safe or not. The judges have made their decision about the Rwandan scheme. The question is, how do we deal with an asylum system now in chaos, a government that has lost control, and Labour's plan for a cross-border unit, stronger powers for the National Crime Agency, a new security agreement that allows us to share intelligence to clamp down on the smuggling gangs, and have a push to deal with the backlog of cases built up in the system, both by more case officers and more returns officers, so those who don't have a right to stay, having had their decision, are then returned.
Do you think any flights will go to Rwanda before the next election?
Look, search me on that. I mean, that should not be the government's priority. It's an unworkable plan. We've said it from the start. It's an unlawful plan. The government will be much better dealing with the problems that have built up over the last few years in a system they've lost control of.